Welcome to the Wrecking Yard. I'm Jerry Wayne Longmire. Y'all, presumably still y'all. All are welcome here in the Church of Internal Combustion. We just ask that you show up with an open heart. I am glad to be here with you guys this Sunday evening. Well, it's actually kind of Saturday afternoon for me leading into the evening. Yeah, man, let's knock out our sponsors. The Wrecking Yard is brought to you this week by our new premium sponsor over at Jake's Quality Repair LLC up there in Marshfield, Wisconsin. Jake's is your go-to family-owned semi-truck and trailer repair shop that offers roadside service calls for the trucker in need. Blowouts, call Jake's. Trailer damage, call Jake's. Driving a Volvo, call Jake's. I mean, it's still going to be a Volvo, but he can fix the other stuff. Need a career change? Call Jake's. He sells and services snowplows. He can have you out here in these streets pushing that frozen white gold in no time. They offer all manner of repair for all auto makes, and they do a lot of custom hot rod work too. Check out his Facebook page, Jake's Quality Repair LLC, for more information, or contact the man himself at 715-384-6699. Remember, truckers, if you're in central Wisconsin, you run into a problem, the number you need is 715-384-6699. Jake's Quality Repair LLC for your central Wisconsin automotive needs. Also, don't forget to check out our good friends at the Golden Beard Company. It's a 10-year-old global beard brand specializing in organic, natural beard care products in Denmark. They make my absolute favorite mustache wax. I've got it on right now because I just came back from doing some other stuff. Not that I wouldn't put it on for y'all, but I don't usually. But I love it, man. It's got enough holds, not overly sticky, keeps mine looking good underneath hot stage lights, and it lasts a long time too. So, and I don't like putting a bunch of chemicals and stuff on my face, so I like that it's made with all kind of organic whatnot. Remember, they're at goldenbeards.com. Goldenbeards.com. Tell them JW sent you. It is a balmy Saturday here at the Wrecking Yard. What's our temp? Ooh, we got about 80 degrees in the shop. It's a little balmier, less balmy than I thought. It's not too bad. I just got back from doing radio, which is not something I get to do a lot anymore. It was a much bigger medium 20 years ago, but it's starting to kind of have a resurgence, which is I'm finding enjoyable. And I was doing radio with my old buddy Outlaw Dave. He's Houston Radio Legacy. Outlaw Dave was the host of Rock KLOL 101 for years and years and years, and actually gave me my very first spots on the radio 20 years ago. Some of my first radio experiences were with Dave and being a cast member on his show for a little while. So it's really good. I hadn't seen him in a minute. I saw him a few times after the pandemic, and I hadn't got to sit down and chop it up with him in a while and talk old stories and talk about who we are now. And I had a great time chopping up the studio with him. And that's going to air tonight. That aired last night at 7 p.m. And you can go over to Outlaw Dave's Facebook page and watch that interview if you'd like to. And I'll, of course, share it to my Facebook page. If you're interested in checking that out, I had a good time. Dave knows me pretty well, and we had fun chopping it up, like I said. And then when I get done filming this, I'm driving over to the Secret Group, and I'm going to headline the 7 p.m. show at the Secret Group, which I'm excited about that because I got some new bits I'm working on the beats on and looking for the right places to add in the show. I'm working on a story about the guy falling out and Planet Fitness. That's been something I've been playing with on stage recently. And the story I told y'all last week about the guy and the cats, I've been playing with that story on stage. People seem to enjoy it. So looking for the right beats in it, find all the punchlines I can find in there. So I'm excited. Anytime I get to go be on stage, and when I get to go do the Secret Group, it's not, it's a 20-minute headliner set, and I can just kind of play around and enjoy myself. It's a hip crowd that come in there every Saturday and buy tickets, so they don't have as much. They're just there for a good time. You make them laugh, have a good time. they'll let you work on anything you want to work on. And they can't always do that in a paid show. A lot of times I go do a paid show, those people are paying for my A1 top rated material. I got to go in there and hit them with the big hits, the ones I know already work. And so it's nice to have a place to go work out some stuff. It's like a comedy gym, if you will. I hope y'all have had. I don't have my wedding ring on. And that was troublesome. I had my fancy ring on earlier when I was off doing the other show, and I took it off because I was doing some stuff on the back porch, and got to put it back on. I will have it back on before I leave the house. I ain't trying to do that to myself. Just kidding. Rachel don't give a crap about that stuff. But I like having it on because it lets everybody know that I'm situated. I ain't looking for nothing. Hope y'all have had a good Easter or 420 or Earth Day, whichever you celebrate. I happen to celebrate all those things. I'm gonna have a good time today. Tomorrow, it'll be tomorrow for me. We got some plans with the kids, and I'm pretty excited about it. And then got some plans for later to celebrate the second part of the holiday, which I'm excited about that too. I've come to enjoy my cannabis times a little more since I don't drink hardly. Oh man, alive! Whew, y'all couldn't see that. I don't even know if you could hear that on the audio, but a hawk just flew into the garage and scared the piss out of me. He's gone now, thankfully. He did not decide to stick around. I have fond memories of Easter. It was always a time the whole family got together. We were kids. I love hard boiled eggs. Boy, I'd make myself sick eating hard boiled eggs at Easter when I was a kid. Loved them Easter egg hunts. It was always a good time. I got together with my cousins, Ricky and Tony, and I just got a bunch of cousins on that side of the family, but we always had fun. We'd all go to a park and have a big family get together. And of course, we were also Pentecostal, and there was all the stuff at the church. And uh, Easter is one of those confusing holidays. There's a lot of symbolism mixed in with it. It comes from paganism, and I don't think anybody understands 100% of it all the way. Why there's a rabbit involved and eggs and such. I think it had something to do with fertility. That's for somebody else's podcast to figure out. I'm not really that invested in it. Just give me a chocolate egg and a reason to smile and see some people I love. Hey, Kitty, you coming to visit? Yeah. I got no food for you in here. I know what you're looking for. Food is out there. All right, let's get off into this. Got my timer going good. I'm gonna be 100 with y'all. From the time I was 14 to the time I was about 24 years old, I was absolutely Mustang crazy. I dreamed about having a Mustang before I ever had one. I had pictures of them on my walls. I big fan of the Mach ones and the Boss Mustangs from the early '70s, very early '70s and late '60s. Loved the first generation of the Mustang. Uh, and I've had a handful. I've had a handful of Fox bodies. I've never had any other generation. I've never personally owned any other generation Mustang, but I have had a handful of Fox body Mustangs, and I've had a lot of adventures in Fox bodies. And my genuine love for this platform is going to shine through when I talk about them. I'm just going to tell you that in advance. If you're a Mustang hater, this is not going to be your favorite episode because my Fox body bias shines like a beacon in the night, baby. I made in fact, I kind of tore down a Fox body in a marketplace astrology one time, and all these guys are, oh, everybody, you guys love to hate on Fox. Like, no, I'm the last guy to hate on Fox bodies. I just thought the price he was asking for that Fox body was ignorant, and I stand by that. People, oh, you can't get a decent Fox body. You can. They're everywhere. You might have to buy you a roller and put an engine and transmission in it, but you can get Fox body Mustangs all day long. They made millions of them. They're not that hard to find. And if you're telling everybody they're that hard to find, it's because you were looking for a show car. Go buy a show car if you want. But if you really, really want a Fox body Mustang, they can be had for reasonable prices, at least reasonable with the current market. You don't have to spend 30 grand to have a Fox body. Now, me personally, if I had the money sitting around, I would probably go buy somebody's restored Fox body for 30 grand because chances are they got 100 tied up in. That's why the rich stay richer, because they buy all the bullshit we spend too much money on and enjoy it, and then sell it for more money. Maybe, I don't know. Don't go to me for financial advice. I'm not gonna go too far into the Mustang's very storied history. I'm mostly going to fixate on third gens and where the company, third generation Mustangs, the Fox body platform, and where the company was at that time with their beloved pony car. Did you know towards the end of the third gen production cycle, the Mustang almost became a front wheel drive Mazda product? Thankfully, Ford had a little more sense back then and listened to its fan base and abandoned the idea and called the other creation the Ford Probe, which was more like a neutered front wheel drive RX-7. And if you ever had to work on one of those clunky front ends, you might have felt like you've been probed. I ain't going to talk about the SN95 because I don't know anything about it. I lost Mustang. I lost interest in Mustang for those years. I've never even driven one or sat in one. The first time I saw one of those super looking abominations, I just knew Fast and Furious, the frame had ruined the automotive world I'd grown up in. I was so disappointed the first time I saw it. SN95. What the hell is this? It's still. I mean, go look at the Super from that era and look at that car and look at them side by side and tell me there's not. You know, Toyota got in trouble for stealing from Ford, but I think, boy, if anybody was honest about that SN95, I think Ford did a little stealing there too, and it was just the worst kind. This cat, sorry, she's off doing crazy stuff. The Fox platform was a late answer to the fuel crisis of the 70s. We've covered that. All these automakers had these big changes at this time because when the fuel embargo and all that stuff hit in the 70s, and I don't know all the ins and outs of it. I was not born yet, but it changed everything. That's when the Pinto. That's when everybody started trying to make compact cars. That's when the Japanese came and really started doing well in the American market with their compact cars. It's but the Fox platform was one of the great chess moves by Saint Lee Iacocca. Y'all know I adore Mr. Iacocca, and Lee Iacocca and Hans Sperlich wanted a subcompact frame that they could build multiple cars out of and downsize a lot of their full size lines like the Granada and the Thunderbird. They wanted to make this little frame that they could build just about any little car they wanted on. And they also wanted a car that would, they called it the world car in the beginning because they wanted to be able to sell it in every market in the world. And nobody had tried that yet. Nobody had said, let's just build one car that we can sell, besides Volkswagen. But it was a new way of thinking for Ford Motor Company. Henry Ford too hated it. Henry Ford too, he hated racing. Lee Iacocca convinced him to get back in racing. I think I'm convinced Henry Ford II hated everything about the Ford Motor Company because that man did everything he could to ruin it. Yeah, they wanted to build something everybody could want it. Now, because of different restrictions and stuff around the world, it didn't become that. But what they did end up with was a platform that could still meet the changing cafe regulations that threw every major North American automaker into a tailspin in the early to mid 70s. Iacocca was justifiably disappointed in the Mustang too. The Mustang was his baby, and they did that to it. And I know some people love them and some people great, but let's not pretend for a second that was not a dark part of Mustang's history. That was a dark time in the Mustang nameplate, and the only saving grace was they added that stupid 2 on the end. Iacocca wanted to give his pony car, beloved pony car, some legs again. He wanted to make it hot again. I mean, it's worth noting. It's another Henry Ford II made the biggest blunder of his career when he fired Lee, and it was all because him and Lee kept butting heads. He fired Lee. They fired Lee. It was personal. It didn't have nothing to do with it. Ford made a $2 billion profit under Lee Iacocca's guidance the year they fired him, and he dusted himself off and went and saved Chrysler, while the Fox body saved Ford's ass unilaterally. It was a rear wheel drive chassis, unibody chassis. It go on to sport the Fairmont, the Mark 7, the Capri, Thunder Chicken. There's probably 12 other cars I'm forgetting. I know there's the Granada, the Monarch. Did I say Capri? Yeah, the Mercury Capri. When the first 200 horsepower high output 302 was put in the Mustang in 1985, Haggerty said it was the end of the malaise era in American automotive design. It signaled the end of that we're just trying to get by era. It's not a great era of car design, it's just not some. There's some of my favorites because they're the ones I grew up with, but they weren't. Me, the mid '70s into the early '80s is one of the worst periods of car design as far as styling and the way they look. You know, but it was a good time for the Mustang. Mustang had returned to its roots. It was an affordable, torquey little 2-door coupe that a working man could afford to get his hands on. Before '85, they come in from like '79 to '85. They come in about 12 different configurations. There was Cobras. There was a Cobra Turbo in '79 that was one of the most embarrassing cars ever built. There was pace cars. There was a couple different versions of Turbo. You could even get one with an inline six. There's a lot of them from '79 to like '84 that just, yeah, you got to watch people selling them things. They're bad as Corvette owners. This is one of one. This one of one nobody wanted, dude. You know. In '85 they dropped everything, but the only thing they kept after '85 was the GT, the LX, and the SVO Turbo 4, which I had one of those for a minute, and that was a fun little car to own. I ain't gonna lie, that little turbo 2.3 SVO Mustang, it was a fun little car to drive. Didn't feel like the V8, but it was a whole different. It was lighter. The little car was fun. Oh, they also had that. It was a sedan, but it's kind of like got the nickname Notchback because there's a distinction between the back glass and the trunk lid. Uh, where I didn't like the notchbacks when I was younger. I thought they were just kind of looked like a stupid sedan car, and they didn't look cool, and they didn't have the ground effects, and they didn't have a spoiler on them. They didn't have the fog lights, and they didn't look like a hot rod car to me. They just looked like something my uncle was going to drive. They didn't look exciting to me. But the notchback was favored by the racing community and law enforcement because it was a little more stable at high speeds due to it had a little more rigid construction because of the design of the body. These days, as I age, your tastes change, and now I've seen a bunch of notchbacks, and I often think, boy, I would love to have me about a 92, 91 or 92 little notchback sedan because those things look a lot cooler than me than they used to. And when they got them factory white pony wheels on them, I just think it's a clean looking little car. Back then, I think I also mostly just associated them with Texas State Troopers. And if you've ever been on the wrong end of one of them police interceptor 5.0s, they had those cars dialed in, Bubba. Them little State Trooper 5, I don't know what all they did to them, but those little cars moved, Bubba. The one and only time I got caught up by the law in my '86 Mustang was a State Trooper in an early '90s notchback. And I'll tell the story once we get a little farther in. But woo, buddy, Mustang sales slumped in the late '80s, and a Ford. That's when Ford announced they were going to change it to a front-wheel drive product, and with their new collaboration with Mazda, and the fans of Mustang lost their mind. Hundreds of thousands of letters. I've seen a picture of the stacks of letters. Hundreds of thousands of letters people wrote. And very quickly, Ford switched gears and kept it a rear wheel drive platform, even if it did end up looking like a Supra. I guess the point of that is we all should have been a little more proactive and picked up our pen and paper when we saw Idris Elba hawking that multi-recall, overheating, rattly EV disappointment the world is stuck with now. If I'd have known letters could have changed, I would have went on a letter writing campaign in 2019 if I'd known the Mach E was what was to come. I came across my Mustang by accident, really. I wasn't looking for one when I found it. You know, sometimes that's the best finds when you're not looking for something. That's I spend a lot of my time these days not looking for something, just randomly looking at things. You know, looking for something to buy and flip. I just flipped one a little while back, did okay on it. I was probably around 98. I think it had been like 98, somewhere in that time period. Didn't have it for a long time. Uh, I can tell you at the time when I got it, I was driving that little '86, the little 1986 S10 that I had bought from my dad when I was living in Kilgore when I got rid of my El Camino, and that little S10 had belonged to my Papa Clark at one time. Anyway, that little S10 was fine. It was it was 2.8 liter, so 70 miles an hour with a tailwind. You were getting it, but it was I will say this: it was a pretty reliable little pickup. You know, that was about what it was. What did turn no heads, just a little S10. People kill themselves for that little truck now, but people often tell her, give me grief because I'm not a big fan of the S10 platform. Like, I don't, it's not exciting to me. You know, I had that one, and I had a couple of them little pre '90s S10s, and they're fine. You know, they did what you needed them to do, but just don't do anything for me. I'll be okay if I never drive another one again. I know I just moved back to Houston from East Texas, and I was looking for jobs, trying to find a job. I was tired of working in shops and the heat and shit. I wanted to get me something that got me out of the heat. I was going to go find me something new. I was ready to just do something new for myself. I hadn't discovered NDT yet. And I got a job, went and applied, got a job at Crown Dodge. It was a Crown Dodge dealership on I-10 out there on the Katy Freeway. But they're kind of close to Gester and all that, kind of west side of town. But that's kind of where I lived, was out in Aileen. And 1998 was a pretty good time to work at a Dodge dealership. I ain't gonna lie. Second gen Dodge trucks were hard to keep on the lot. Everybody wanted that truck, what looked like an 18 wheeler. Y'all remember when them second gen Dodges come out, they were hot. Everybody wanted one. You could sell second gen Dodges all day long. And that was also right when I started out there was when the second gen Dakota that kind of looked like it had the 18 wheeler, had the new styling and everything got released. And everybody wanted one of those. Those things sold like hotcakes. We would literally, I remember we'd get 20 of them on the lot and get another 20, within a month. They just moved. Those little cars, those little pickups, everybody wanted one. I wouldn't say I was a great car salesman. I didn't know anything about went in there, but I knew about cars. and I loved cars. I liked being around cars. I wanted to work in the car business. And it was just one of those things. I didn't realize it back then, but it was a cattle call. They'd put an ad out in the newspaper and they'd hire 20 new recruits. And maybe three of you would end up with a job there for all the training was done and everything. Because you spent about 2 weeks training with minimum wage pay, and that was what was that, like 4.25 back then? It wasn't great. I'd already had a lot better jobs than that by that point in my life. I had made minimum wage since I was in high school. And new cars, man, when you're selling new cars, so new cars, and I don't know how it is now because I don't sell cars anymore, but at that time, new cars, there just wasn't, the commissions weren't really big on new cars because they were doing all kind of rebates and all kind of stuff. And you get down the end, you might sell, you know, the Dodge Neons are really popular, and those ran about 7, 8 grand. And you can sell Dodge Neons all day and maybe make a $200 commission on a Dodge Neon. You always got the minimum commission on a Dodge Neon because most of those were special finance and they got rebated and discounted to the point that there just wasn't a lot of money left in there for the salesman. But it was the training grounds. That's what we would go in every morning, and the sales manager would give us a sales meeting and basically tell us everything we was doing wrong. And then all those little new recruits would be out there by their front door. I don't know if car dealerships still do this. Back then, you could tell they'd already hired a bunch of new guys because we'd all be standing out there in our very ill-fitting dress shirts and slacks and whatever shoes we could buy that looked decent enough to wear with dress shirt and slacks and unmatching belts and weirdly combed hair. And you get ambushed. You pulled your car in the parking lot, you was getting ambushed. There's going to be two guys waiting for you to get out of that car and start yapping at you because that's what we were taught to do. Get them ups, catch them before they even get in the door. They wanted us talking to people. If a dude, I had a dude stop, roll his window down, ask for directions one time. I started trying to sell him a car. That's what they wanted out of us, and I wanted to make some money, and I didn't want to be on that minimum wage payment any longer. I wanted to get my first commission, and I remember they hired about 20 of us, and I think four of us stuck it through all the training, to actually get a commission on a car. Sometimes they would hire a bunch of new recruits, and then because there was better money in used cars were where the money was, for a salesman back then. And but they kind of treated because it was where all the derelicts was, all the real grease balls were in used cars, and you almost had to get in trouble, get yourself put in the used car market. And luckily, I was good at getting in trouble. I've always been able to yap, talk to people. You're into golf, I'm into golf. I can do all that, but selling and yapping ain't the same thing. There's a magic to a guy who can close a deal. And so I would catch these ups in the new car lot, and I'd get them talked in the door and get them talked into a test drive and have them all ready to go. But then generally, some other more experienced salesman would have to close the deal for me because I didn't know how to close the deal then. I hadn't spent enough time around Uncle Bobby to learn how to close a deal properly at that point in my young life. Oh man, couldn't even barely grow a mustache yet. Come in all patchy. Well, I could talk to them people, so that's where I would get a lot of half commissions because I would get them as long as I got them in the car to test drive it and got them really interested in buying the car and got them in there to a better salesman that could close the deal. Then I would get a half commission. If I didn't get them to test drive and do some of the steps, but once they told me the parameters, I was good at that. But that's where I got in trouble one day. I was trying to learn how to close the deal, and I was trying to close the deal on a test drive. And we was in one of them new Dodge Dakotas, man, and it was the 5.9. It was hot, boy. That little 360 Magnum. and that little Dodge Dakota would get up and go, baby. It was bright red. It was a beautiful little pickup. And I had this dude. I was trying to sell him on it. And we went out and took him out there and let him drive it for a little while. And he drove around for a little while. And we stopped somewhere. He switched out so I could drive it back to the lot. And I remember he was like, man, I just want to make sure I get this one with this 5.9 liter. He said, it still doesn't feel powerful enough for me. And I was like, it doesn't feel powerful enough for you. And this little road that ran in front of the car lot was just like a little 2-lane road. It's called Old Katy Road. Running right, it's like a feeder road down I-10 in Houston. And I think it's like a 45-mile-an-hour speed limit, somewhere in that. But we pulled off Eldridge, and he was complaining about he didn't he liked the older carbureted. I thought they had more power. I was like, boy, you don't know what you're talking about. And when we turned that corner at Eldridge, boy, I mashed on that gas and slid the back end of that little Dodge Magnum Dakota out there. I just got in it, baby. Burned half a tire off and started whipping down that old Katy Road, man. I don't know how fast I was going, but the cop that pulled me over said he wrote me up for 70 and a 45. I think I might have been going faster than that before I saw him and mashed on the brakes. And not only did I get in trouble for getting a ticket on a test drive when I got back to the lot, but the guy uh, was so shooken by the experience, shooken. That's not a word. He was so shook by the experience that he didn't end up buying the truck. So not only did I get a ticket, I didn't end up getting a commission or a sale. My bosses were all pissed off at me, and there was some talk about firing me. And I basically threw myself at the mercy. The sales manager was this big old bald guy named Pat, and I threw myself at. I said, Pat, I need this job. I promise nothing like this ever happened. I threw myself. I begged and pleaded to keep my job. And Pat's answer to me keeping my job was to move me out to the used car lot. The used car lot was a different world, but it was just a dirty little old trailer, little wood deck. Characters were all different there, but there was a special finance guy over there, Richard Witt, Witt. He's an old cowboy, old drugstore cowboy. Had him a silver mullet, wore a big bolo tie, big belt buckle, cowboy boots with his dress slacks. Went by Dick Witt. I always thought that was kind of funny. Oh, Dick Witt. Dick Witt was special finance. Boy, he could get anybody in the car. He could play games with the numbers, but woo, he's going to cripple you on the back end. You were getting hurt. If you had to see Dick Witt, you was getting hurt, brother. Oh, that's slick talking. Boy, he could have talked bees out of honey. He was slick, man. You'd watch your wallet around Dick Witt. There was a one dude. I think I've told y'all a story about him grabbing me by the ear, twisting my ear one time. Everybody called him Gunny. He was a former Marine and a former Texas State Trooper. Old skinny old retired state trooper with a buzz cut, and surly attitude. There's a there's another dude named Gary. Gary's dad owned a bunch of junkyards on Shepherd. Back then, Shepherd in Houston, that's where a lot of the good junkyards was. Gary, I think maybe Gary's auto salvage is still there. I had to drive down there someday. Well, it's right over here by my house. I have to pay attention next time I go to the gym and see if old Gary's is still there. But yeah, Gary come from some money. His daddy had that wrecking yard money, and that was a good business in Houston. Gary was a whole problem, man. He was a bit of a louse. Women, all the trappings, drugs, the partying. There's another dude. There's two or three of these guys. There's a guy named Andy. Andy was just old. Was just a middle-aged drunk, and all these dudes except Gunny the state trooper. I think Gunny the state trooper had a couple ex-wives, but all these other dudes had DWIs, ex-wives, nose candy problems. They were all a mess. And then we had this we had this little it was the porter for the dealership, but he would hang out in there sometimes. His name was Freddie. And Freddie's I don't know what was wrong with Freddie, but Freddie's cheese wasn't all the way on the cracker, if you catch my drift. You know what I mean? It slipped about halfway off the cracker. Freddie reminded me of that character Brendan Priestley. Brandon Priestley, is that his name? From the 90210. He reminded me of the character he played in that movie in Tombstone. Remember, he's kind of a little dorky dude hanging out with the cowboys, and they all made fun of him and everything. But when some of them got killed, boy, he was real upset at the Earps and old Doc Holliday. Y'all killed some of my friends. If I was a bigger man, I'd fight you. And they were so surprised. They're like, all they did was make fun of the guy. That was Freddie. Freddie was that guy. He loved them guys in the used car lot. They tormented him nonstop. First time I saw somebody, he fell asleep on one of the couches one day, and that dude Gary, they took a picture of Gary rubbing his penis on his ear. It was an animal house in used cars. Used cars was just it was the dirt bags. I got sent over there for an education. I got sent over there for punishment, but then I ended up having fun. But those guys, it wasn't nothing to see them dudes like just do a little key bump, go, boy, get out the park lot, get these ups. And they be out there just fast talking customers trying to get them in a used car. But there's a lot more markup in used cars. You know, in these new cars, they do, like I said, all them rebates and stuff. The markup was hard to get to. MSRP was a dream back those days. You wasn't gonna get it. You know, you're gonna get all the rebate. Everybody done been on the internet, looked up rebates, and seen all the. That's back when they used to do the sales ads where they'd take one basic Dodge truck, a basic second gen Dodge truck from the factory, like a basic roll up windows, lowest engine combination, no frills, no extended cab, single cab, uh, long bed work truck, basically. And they would post that in the newspaper with some super low price on it. And everybody'd show up looking to buy that truck, and they only had one of them. Everything else was extended cab and a bunch of options, and you was going to get talked into the extended cab and a bunch of options. They had all kind of gimmicks back then. And the used cars, there was always markup in them, man. And they would come up with the craziest shit, man. I was out there one day, and the dude was doing the what do they call that? The dry erase, the they used to write on the car on the windshields with the shoe polish, the price, and all that stuff. So this guy was out there doing that. Sales manager for the used cars was doing that, and I was following him along, reading stuff to him off the list as he did it for all these used cars we had in that used car lot. And he kept writing $3,000 ADP, $3,000. So it would be the price, what they wanted for the used car, plus $3,000 ADP. Da 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 da. ADP stood for additional dealer profit. It was just some bull crap they put on the windshield of them cars, and they didn't mind if they had to come off that ADP to make somebody feel good about buying an over marked up used car. You know what I mean? There's a car sales in its history should be examined. There should be just a great flick about the history of car sales and all the scams people have come up with to sell cars over the years. Not including the scams to sell cars that were BS and everything else. Just the legitimate scams people come up with to move cars over the years. It ought to be studied. There ought to be a college class on it. It's remarkable what guys did over the years. Those sales meetings, they weren't like the sales meeting over at the new car dealership. Sales meetings was full of profanity and boisterous pitches and sometimes drugs use. I'm telling you, if half the people that come on that lot and bought a car had ever sat in on one of them sales meetings, they would have been mortified, And usually Freddie got jacked with during the meeting. It was just it was a different time. You know, everybody says that, but it really was. I guarantee you, half the things that happened in those sales meetings would have got everybody fired nowadays. Everybody fired, maybe some criminal charges, maybe at least some civil charges. It was a different time. Oh, I remember the first time I seen that 86 was, the thing with them used cars was they were taking them all in on trade in. Well, if you've ever bought car, they don't give you crap on trade in. It's all BS and hidden in paperwork. It's a inflated number that's not really what you're getting for the car. And people think, oh, I'll go trade in my car, get a good deal. You're not. You trade in a car, you're a fool. Sell that thing retail and go buy the car you want. You trade in a car, you're a damn fool because they're taking you for a ride and they're hiding that money in the financing somewhere. I just, yeah, and you're a fool if you trade in a car. Unless that thing just ain't worth nothing, then trade it in. But they would take these cars in on trade in and really give next to nothing for the car, and then put that car out on the used car lot and mark it up all to hell, clean it up, have porters go through it, get all the make ready, and make that car look brand new, and then they make some money on it. But used cars where the money was, man. I remember the first time I seen that '86. It was that old dude Andy. He was kind of blonde headed and balding, and always came in wearing sunglasses in the morning because his eyes were so bloodshot, and his coffee smelled like some kind of liquor at all times. We were standing out there on the used car lot, and he had a couple different cars he drove. Mm, a lot of those used car guys would buy cars themselves when they could buy them from the back room and flip them and do all kinds of. They were always hustling, doing this and that, buying cars from their buddies, financing them for people. And, well, I seen him. He came down that little feeder road right there in front of the dealership one morning. We was all getting ready to have our sales meeting. We were standing out on that front porch there, smoking cigarettes and drinking coffee. And I seen that white Mustang. It had black racing stripes on it. It was a white '86 GT, had black racing stripes on it. Uh, had some aftermarket wheels, but they looked clean as hell, man. They were black. I've always liked black wheels on a white car. It looks like a NASCAR to me. I like black wheels, period. I like blacked out wheels. That looks like NASCAR to me. I like it. I always appreciated that look. I appreciated that look before it got popular. I was big into it. And you can't have no hot rod without some black. So my Paul, you say can't have no hot rod without red wheels on it. I like red wheels on a car too, but black wheels on a car looks good to me, especially on a white car. He come roaring down there about 60 miles an hour, and the thing about that little feeder road, bro, is all them salesmen at DWIs. Most of them had got them right there on that feeder road because they'd be out drinking all night, partying all night, and doing all whatnot. And come in there at 8 o'clock in the morning, still a little drunk. And there was a couple cops, HPD officers, that sat up at each end of that feeder road. And boy, they would. I don't know how much fundraising they did off sales after drunk salesmen coming into work in the morning. They'd done a bunch, but Andy come running down there about 65 mile an hour in that Mustang. And he downshifted right before he turned into the lot, like hard downshift. Like you could tell he was probably still a little drunk because them tires, but then that engine pulled into that. I love the way a small block 302 sounds. I can sit here on my back porch when they race on Thursday nights on Hardy Toll Road, and every once in a while I get to hear me old small block Ford. I love the way I like the way old small block Chevrolet, cam carbureted small block Chevrolet sounds. I like the way a big block Chrysler sounds. I like the way a big block Ford sounds. But I love the way a small block Ford, little carbureted small block Ford, just has a sound to it that is unlike any other to me. It's one of my favorites. I don't get into the Coyotes; they sound weird to me. I know they're awesome engines. I know they're great. I'm not crapping on the Coyote. I know it's a great build and it's a great engine, and it kind of changed the face of racing when it came out. But they just don't have the same sound, you know. Sometimes you just want the way something used to sound, and I like the way them small block, and that thing sounded good. I could tell it wasn't running right, but it sounded good when he pulled in there. It was headers and exhaust, and I wanted it. I wanted it right away. I was like, "Where'd you get that car?" And he said, "Oh, I just bought it." And yada yada yada. Some friend of mine thought I'd play with it a little while and sell it. Fun to drive. It's got 5 speed. Like, yeah, I heard you almost break it pulling in the parking lot. I'm a 19-year-old kid. Nobody listened to me. But I wanted it. And he made me a deal, and I think he sold it to me for about $3 grand. He's going to let me give him a down payment and finance some of it. Boy, first thing I did when I went home that day, put an ad in the green sheet for that little S10. Back in when you want to sell a car, you couldn't just do it from your computer at home. You had to call somewhere and place an ad. You had to. Well, I guess you could get online, but the green sheet was one of my favorite car finding places. Green sheet was a little periodical, and you could find it in every gas station. It was free and didn't cost much, nothing. List your car in there and sell it. In fact, they had free ads that you could do that just didn't have much information. Green sheet was like analog Craigslist. It was great. I put that little S10 in the green sheet, and then right down there at the corner of West Park and Highway 6, there was just this little. I think there's a Walmart now, but there was back then. It was just kind of some empty land, and on the weekends, people would park their cars out there and write the price and their phone number on the car and sell cars out there. And there'd be 15, 20 cars out there for sale on the weekend. So I had Joey drive me up there, and I got my little shoe polish marker. I think I asked for $1,800 for that little S10, but it was a good running, good driving little truck. It was clean. It was all solid. We had done all the body work on it, replaced the fenders from where Papa had wrecked it. It was a clean little truck. Had good tires. Back in them days, a running, driving pickup truck in Houston. You might not be able to get much for it out in East Texas, wherever, but in Houston, the Latino guys and the landscapers, that was $1,000 truck, easy. They would buy them all day long. If it was clean, had good stereo. I mean, that little S10 had good stereo in it and everything. That was a good little truck. Little extended cab, wasn't bad looking from about 10 foot away. It looked pretty good. I had done the paint work with spray cans, but I had worked hard at it. Matched that original two-tone gray and black. We put that. I remember it was a Saturday. Drove that truck up there about 7 o'clock in the a.m. Left it up there. Got on there with my shoe polish, wrote my price and my phone number, and went back home to wait. Dad had me doing yard work and stuff. And Joey was hanging out, and I had the title ready to go. And what truck wasn't up there about 2 or 3 hours? We started getting calls about it. Hey man, would you take 1,000 for it? Would you take 1,200 for it? Just like you do on Marketplace, you ignore them people. No, I'm not interested in that. No, I'm not interested in that. This one dude called me, sounded like an older dude. He said, "Hey, I'm interested in that little pickup you got to sell on Highway 6. I'm thinking about buying it for my son. Would you meet me up there and let me drive it?" Well, he sounded serious. He's not talking about price. That's a key to me, man. Uh, you lowballing people on price, yeah, I get it. Every once in a while they take the deal, but if you just shoot lowball offers all day, you ain't serious. But you want to go out there and put your hands on a vehicle and spend some time with it before you make an offer, that's a serious buyer. That's a man serious about buying a vehicle. He's investing his time. It don't take no time to shoot off a message to somebody. Setting up an appointment, go look at a car, that's a serious buyer. And he was serious. He wanted to buy that truck. I could tell. Joey run me back up there, and they met up with us, and it was a couple, and their son had just returned home. He was a Marine. He was a little older than me, maybe 22, 23. Just come home from his first tour in the Marines. And I got the feeling, judging by the stories they were telling in our time together, that he was kind of a screw up. Had been a screw up in school and had gotten in some trouble with the Marines. Didn't get a dishonorable discharge, but he wasn't going back. And he was home to find a job and start looking for a career. And he kept making jokes about all he knew how to do was work on guns. And his dad would just look at me like, "Sorry, my son's an idiot." And that kid did not want that truck. I could tell you every fiber of being. He kept talking about what was it? They had looked at another car. It was something else. It was some other little. I mean, I think maybe it was a Camaro. I think maybe it was just a one of those frisbee looking Camaros from the '90s. I forgot what gen that is, but you know what I'm talking about. Ones look like a spaceship. I think he wanted one of those Camaro. They had looked at a little V6 Camaro, and he wanted that Camaro. He thought that was going to be the P wagon he needed, you know. And his dad got in that S10. We drove down the road, and his dad's like, this ain't a bad price on this little truck. It's a good little truck. Can you work with me on it? And I had marked it that way because I knew somebody's going to want a little something. You got to make them feel like they're getting some kind of deal, you know. I already knew that much about selling cars. You got to throw some extra in there. You know, you're going to take a hit on just so everybody likes to feel like they got a discount. And he's talking to me. He said, I got about $1,500 cash on me right now. I give you 1,500 cash for this little truck. I said, I just listed it for sale today. I'd like to see if I can get a little closer to what I'm looking for, but I appreciate that offer. And if I don't sell it, I'll call you. And we drove back there, and he said, yeah, no, I appreciate it. Just call me if you don't get it sold. And I drove back there, and I was a little disappointed because I really thought the guy was going to buy the truck. And him and Mama went over there and talked a little bit, and the kid stood there I call the guy a kid. He was older than me at the time, but I remember he kept making dinky about how dinky the truck was and all that kind of stuff. And like, boy, I don't want something like this. How am I get girls in a truck like this? Like, I hadn't had no problem getting girls in it. Maybe it's your approach. But he did not want that truck. He wanted anything in the world but that truck. But Mom and Daddy was buying the vehicle for him, so we all shook hands. And I promised the guy, I said, if I don't get a better offer by the end of the day, I'll call you. I'll let you have this little pickup. What we're talking about. Me and Joey run off to the Taco Bell, get us some food. I'm disappointed, boy. I thought that truck was about to sell. Get back to the house. Dad said, "There's a message for you on the voicemail." Boy, I went in there and checked that voicemail. Sure enough, it was that dude. He said, me and my wife talked about it. We went by the bank, got some more money out of the bank, and if the truck's still available, we'd sure like to buy it. And I was like, well, okay, man. He's like, I called him back. I said, yeah. I said, truck's still available. He said, man, would you take 1,700 for it? I said, absolutely, I'd take $1,700 for it. I said, I got the title right here. Let me get my brother, give me a ride down there. And they met me over there about 5 o'clock in the PM and gave me the money for that pickup. I got the rest of my little bit of stuff out of it. And boy, that kid was mad. The dad was going to drive the truck home. That kid was got in the passenger seat, bitch. A little ungrateful shit. Boy, he was just mad as I still think about him. Like he was just ungrateful as hell, mad as hell. Like, boy, kids nowadays, you give them a car, they I don't know. Maybe I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. I never looked down on no car, you know. Not when somebody else was buying it for me. Now, I didn't have that a lot of times in my life, but I sure got some deals over the years. He was mad about that truck. And that car, I went up there Monday. No, I think I called Andy on Sunday, and I met up. Me and Joey met up with Andy, and I gave him my down payment on the car, and then I drove the car home to my house, and it was misfiring, and it was definitely running hot. The temperature gauge is through the roof. I call Andy. He said, "Yeah, it's a used car. Used car, Jerry. Ain't a new car. I didn't say you wasn't gonna have to do some work on it." He's one of them types. Boy, I was hot. Man, this car got all kind of problems. After we started digging off in the car, I got less hot because I found out old Andy didn't know what he had. You know, first of all, it was a roller 302, which is a good ass. That's a good ass block. That's a good. That's a good 302 right there, man. And most of the 302s, I think all of them in that time period had forged pistons. All the high outputs had forged pistons, forged internals. They were easy to get power out of, and it had some good stuff on it. But it had leaking head. The head gaskets were leaking all to hell, and it was misfiring and running like crap. And me and my brother, well, first off, we took them heads off. We found out they were dart heads, which were, boy, for me to have money buy a set of dart heads back then would have required me having about three jobs. Dart heads was expensive. Everybody wanted them dart heads. But the thing about them dart heads is you had to use different head bolts with them because they had different clearances. And the exhaust port was raised, and they had put headers on it, but there were some clearance problems with the headers because those exhaust ports were a little higher on them dart heads. And sure enough, we got to put. They had just used the factory. They had tried to use the factory head bolts with washers, and of course, you know, but the damn thing had MSD Street Fire ignition set on it, which was high dollar back in. That was good stuff. Edelbrock dual plane high rise performer intake on it, 650 Holly. I mean, somebody had started building themselves a real little street machine. And then basically what I found out later was the guy got off in drugs and stuff and finished the car real quick and sold it to Andy. But he didn't finish it correctly. So I went and bought a set of correct head bolts for it, found those for it, and some new Felpro head gaskets on it. And well, the inside of the engine was clean, wasn't leaking no oil, wasn't burning no oil, you know. And if it had been burning oil, that old MSD street fire ignition would have burned it off before you even knew. Those things run hot, boy. We took that thing apart and got it all put back together. My dad helped us out, kind of giving us some guidance along the way. Me and Joey spent the weekend off in that thing, getting it put back together, man. I bought the high dollar head gasket. I wanted that thing to be a runner, man. I remember the first time we fired it up, all that misfire was gone, baby. All of a sudden, Dad helped us restab the distributor. With Ford, you're going to get 180 on 180. It's not like a Chevrolet. You can get it a little bit off and screw everything all to hell. But I had asked for my dad's help with all that, and he had helped us tune that Holly a little bit and run it a little. They were running it way too rich. It was dumping a bunch of fuel down there that little engine didn't need. When we figured out the headers, I don't remember what we had to do with the headers, get the headers to fit right underneath the car. We had to do something crazy with them headers. I think we had to heat them up and bend them a little bit because they were just interfering with steering and everything. It was just a problem. It was a clearance problem. I don't know. It's been 1,000 years ago. So somebody had really started building them a little street machine. Already had a Ford 9 inch, already had a good Ford rear end in it. Already had that little T5 Borg Warner, which I'm a fan of those little transmissions. That was a solid little unit. It was a clutch killing son of a gun. And I've told y'all stories about that, but I can tell you, and I think I've told you this before. The first time I ran it hard, man, we lived right in the curve of Westheimer. And me and Joey took that thing out to Westheimer and lined that thing up at the light in the middle of the day when there wasn't no traffic going out there towards Fulshire. And I gave that thing everything I got. I mean, if you feathered that clutch right coming off the line, that car would grip and go. It's big old fat meat on the back of it. And that car twisted up and bam, second gear, bam, third gear. I mean, just run it through its paces. I don't know what the top end was on it because I never topped the damn thing out. The car would just run, buddy. It wanted to growl and go. It sounded mean as hell. And the first time I ran it hard like that, we come back and I didn't realize something was off with it that day. I drove it for a couple of days, but then the next time I opened the hatchback on it, I couldn't get the hatchback shut right. And what it had is because it's just a little unibody subframe car. I twisted it a little bit. And we had a buddy had a body shop at the time. We took it over there to him, and he said, "What you need some subframe connectors." Well, I asked everybody around about subframe connectors. Everybody, oh, you just make them yourself. You just make them yourself. Have some old tubing and stuff. And so we set about making out our own subframe connectors, and he helped us get them subframe connectors on. My dad helped us out a little bit with it, and that lasted about a week and a half. And next time I really ran that car hard, it busted one of them subframe connectors right off. And I forgot where we got the real ones. Somebody had a set of real, like factory made some nice aftermarket subframe connectors. I may have found them on the green sheet. I don't know. Or one of my hot rod buddies. Somebody had them, and I paid a pretty little penny for those, and we put those on. And that was the end of twisting that car up. But boy, for a minute there, I was driving around. Every time it rained, I got water on me because the doors wouldn't shut right, and damn hatchback, you just had to leave it closed because if you opened it, there wasn't enough of me to twist it back into place and shut the daggum thing again. But boy, once I had that car running, all I cared about was running that car. I wanted to be in that car. I would find reasons to go places. I was still selling cars over the used car lot, and I was doing all right over there, but I don't know. It didn't fit. All of a sudden, I wanted to be back in the shop. I didn't like having to put on dress clothes every day to go to work. I felt like I was having to lie to people all day to make my money, and I didn't like that either. Kind of made me feel gross. And being around them dudes in the used car lot kind of made me feel gross too, because I got to see the after effect. I wasn't doing drugs or drinking back then. I was my drug was racing and loud engines and hanging out on Saturday night on Westheimer, hanging out on Friday night, going up to Brittmore and stuff. That was my drug was fast cars. I didn't want to be like these dudes. They were all a mess every morning when they come in there to sell cars. Eyes bloodshot, blowing crap out their nose, looking like they've been drugged behind a truck. They spray a little bit of brood on, go out there and try to sell some housewife a car. It was just, they were just gross, man. I didn't want to be like them dudes. Not yet either. It was later on in life I decided I wanted to be like them, but not at that time. That time I really just, I really just kept thinking about how simple it was back when I had a job where I had tools in my hand, where I just knew what I had to do every day. And I think that happens to a lot of people. They get promoted, move up in different jobs, and then they realize that they just missed the days when they just had to. I told y'all one time, just had a simple problem to figure out instead of head gaskets, something like that. I was wrenching on that car all the time. We were always tweaking stuff and messing with it. We didn't have to do a lot of repair. Put a lot of clutches in it. A lot of clutches. Boy, I was going through some clutch money. I blow a clutch. Me and Joey got so I've told y'all. Me and Joey got so good at changing that clutch. We put transmission back in that car while it was still hot. It was but I remember when I quit the car dealership, I it was two vehicles I sold. One was a G20 custom conversion van, and it was this lady. She was probably in her 50s, and she was just the sweetest old lady, and she just loved me. And I sold her that van, and I crippled her on it. I mean, I forgot what my commission was on that van, but I got her for everything on that van, and then even got her to buy some upgrades and some pinstriping, some other crap. And when I found out what they'd give for that van and how much money they made off the van, it kind of made me sick to my stomach a little bit. Like that was a really nice lady that I sold that van to, and she was so overjoyed at that van that she sent her brother, her cousins, all her friends to me. And I just it just didn't sit right with me. I always kind of felt bad about it, and probably should have felt worse. Now the me now feels a lot worse about it, but even me then had enough conscience to go, I just don't feel right. And then one night, a dude and his son come in, and we had this little. It was a '96 or a '97 Mazda B 2000 pickup, little Ford Ranger, basically. Clean little marine pickup, standard four cylinder, just base model pickup, roll up windows. But it's clean, low miles too, like 40, 30,000 miles on it, something. Real low miles. And we had that truck marked at like $12,000. I think somewhere in that neighborhood. They had the ADP on it, everything. And it was a Friday night, and I sold that truck for that dad and his kid, that dad and his son. It was going to be his son's first truck. And I got him for everything, and they were special financing too, because it was like a one more extra loan on top of a lot of loans the guy already had. Dick Witt bent them over the counter and took advantage of them too. And I was getting too cocky, I was like, yeah, look at that, I got him. And they weren't going to pick up they were going to come. Oh, I had to take the truck over to get ready. So I took the truck over to get ready, and they cleaned it all up, washed it, all that good stuff. And I went and picked the truck up to get ready. And I would always check the glove compartment and everything. And I opened the glove compartment, and the original window sticker from that truck was in there from the dealership. And the original window sticker was like 10.9 MSRP on it. And I went, oh my God, I just sold this truck for more than what it costs new after it's got 30,000 miles on it. You're like, you're a scumbag, dude. I mean, I don't know. I go back and forth, but I didn't feel right about it. And I went and talked to my sales manager about it. I said, man, I don't think we're doing right. I found that he grabbed that window sticker from me so fast and tore it up through the trash. He goes, don't you ever come to my office with some bullshit like that again. I just got into it. I didn't like that job. It made me cocky in a weird way that I had gotten good at it, I thought, but remember the next day was a Saturday. I'd had this dude that I'd been trying to sell a car to for like 2 weeks. This is older black dude. He worked in a machine shop or something. Always come in his work clothes. His credit was just ruined. And we just couldn't do anything for the guy. Every time he would find something on the lot he liked, I couldn't get him approved for it. They were only going to approve him for some piece of crap. They weren't going to give him what he wanted. He wanted a Dodge. He started out wanting a Dodge Dakota. Brought his whole family up there, tried to trade in this old Cadillac he had. That Cadillac was a planter box on wheels. They weren't going to give him no money for that Cadillac. Was a $500 car on a good day. And he didn't. He was like a musician on the side, and he was looking for a vehicle to go do his music with on the side. I just been jacking this guy for 2 weeks, and that very next Saturday, we had our little desks in the main office there, and I was sitting at my desk and I had my feet kind of kicked up on the trash can. And here come this dude again. He was heated, boy. He said, oh man, I've been trying to come in here get a car. And I was like, man, I can't get you approved on that car you want. I didn't talk to special finance. They don't want to put you in that car. They don't feel like it's a good risk. And he was getting hotter and hotter with me. And I remember I was feeling cocky because I already made my commission on that Mazda. Feeling, I already made my money for the month. I made my money on that miles. I already made my money for the week, you know. And he slammed his hands down on the desk and he looked at me. And there was 3 or 4 other salesmen in there doing their own thing, hanging out. Freddie was in there. He slammed his hands down on my desk. He said, "Jerry, I'm just looking for a good buy." And I grinned and laughed at him and waved and said goodbye. And that man come around that desk so fast and had his hands on me. I went backwards out of that chair on the ground. He was on the ground, had his hands on me. And thank God there was 3 or 4 junky salesmen were in there. They all run and pulled him off me and got him out of there. Of course, and told him he had to leave. And then the sales manager called me in his office and railed me up and down for treating the customer that way. And I quit that job right there on the spot. I decided that wasn't for me anymore. I don't want to be there. And I think part of me was afraid that old boy's gonna come looking for me. It's really, boy, I did a pro stock burnout leaving that park. Like, I'm done with you fools. I don't want to do this mess no more. Back on the job hunt. And I found in the green sheet or something I found, or the newspaper, I found a little lawnmower shop over on Bissonnette was looking to hire somebody to work on small engines. I didn't have a lot of experience working on small engines besides fixing the lawnmowers I screwed up growing up while my dad yelled at me. And I thought, boy, that's working with your hands again. That'll get you back where you belong. And I took it was a dude named RJ, had long black hair, young guy, and it was an old man. I think it was Apple Lawnmower Repair. And they did all lawnmower repairs for the Kubotas and all the stuff the professional landscapers. They pretty much just worked on professional commercial landscaping equipment all the time. And that old man taught me a lot about small engine repair. RJ taught me a lot too, man. I got to where I could go through those things and you know, but it's just like anything else. You learn how to do something, you're working on commission, it's hard to make money. It's hard to make money, I wouldn't job pay an hour and take me 2 hours to do it. I wasn't making a lot of money in the lawnmower shop. I was learning a new trade. And I ain't gonna lie to you, tell you I had all kind of patience when I was in my late teens, early 20s. I wasn't a patient guy. I wanted to make money now. You know, I want to make more money. I'd already had better jobs than that. Thought this was going to be a good thing for me. I thought it was going to be fun. And I mean, we had some fun, man. We built some go karts and we did some stuff, but all I really wanted to do was race that Mustang. And there's a little money, and back then, I don't know how it is now. I don't know anything about it now. 13, 20, all those guys have changed the face of illegal street racing, but I know they race for big money now. Back then, $50 a race and stuff like that. There's a lot of that going on. You go out on Westheimer, you run a couple times $50, $75 a race. The problem was you end up breaking so much crap. It's hard to make no money. I break a clutch. Well, I'm out $50 right there. Because I gotta go buy a clutch or $100, whatever. Mess up a tire. Now you gotta go get another tire. Yeah, I mean you're out there working on that car all the time, keep it running, so you can have some fun on Saturday and Friday night. And I ain't proud of this, but I'm gonna be honest with y'all about it. I started having some money problems. I was having trouble making my insurance, paying for the car, and still paying off that car. And I got real tight on money, and I took some of my dad's power tools. My dad was traveling a lot at the time, and he wasn't home much. We weren't working on stuff together anymore, and I ain't gonna say it's because of that. That's a bullshit justification excuse. Just problem was I was just not a good person. I guess but all I knew is I needed money, and I took some of my dad's tools and I pawned them at a pawn shop. And I kept them receipts in my room because as soon as I got that money back, I was going to go get my dad's tools and put them back. And my mom went in my room, was going through some of my stuff, and found them pawn receipts before I could go get them back. And My dad found out. Man, we went up to the pawn shop, got his tools back, but I didn't think he was ever going to forgive me. I didn't think he was ever going to speak to me again after he almost killed me over it. Lost his mind. We like never. It took a long time to come back to that, get his trust back. I'll tell you that. The old man didn't trust me for a long time, and with good reason. I had failed him and betrayed his trust. And it had to hurt more coming from his son, just like it would hurt me more. I didn't understand all that then, but when I look back and think on it now, I realize that I really poked a blade in the old man's heart that day. I really done him wrong in a way that nobody else could have done him that wrong and hurt him as bad as I did. And we didn't get back from it then. It was years later before we come back from that. And even then, I was at his, he watched me around his tools, and I don't blame him. He eventually forgave me, and we moved on from it. But that was a nasty blow I did to my father, and I don't have a lot of big regrets. That's one of that specific time period. What I done then, that one bothers me at night sometimes. And I'm thankful for a father's love because that's what it takes to forgive somebody for that. But I wasn't on drugs. I wasn't drinking. I cared more about racing than girls then. I mean, I would go out on dates with girls in that car, and if they didn't like my car, that was the last date. I remember there was this little gal. I can't remember her name to save my life, but I was just chasing her. Boy, I wanted. She's a little redheaded thing, and I thought she was the bee's knees, and thought me and her ought to be getting together, and finally talked her into going out on a date with me, and we was driving along that Mustang. Of course, I get the red light. About the second or third red light we was at before we got to the restaurant. Right before we got to the restaurant, she goes, "Ugh, do you have to make that obnoxious noise every time we stop at a red light?" And I was like, "All right, date's over." I turned her. I go, "You know what? I don't feel so good. I'm gonna take you home." And she was okay with it because I think she was sick of me. We didn't even get to the restaurant. I swear I drove her home, and every red light we stopped at, I did a burnout at every red light. I bet that girl still hates cars. I guarantee you she didn't marry a car guy. Hell, I made her so mad. I bet she was one of the first people to buy an electric car. I took another girl out on a date, and that's when the ignition switch. I was having some problems with the ignition switch on the car. I was having to start it with a screwdriver, and she's like, "Oh, that's really neat that you start your car with a screwdriver." I'm like, it actually is kind of cool. And if you don't get that, why am I going on a date with you? I was telling I never want, all I cared about. I was worse than that kid and Christine with that car. I was incensed with that car. Hell, Joey didn't want to. Me and Joey got in some knockdown, drag out arguments over that car because Joey didn't like riding me because I was so damn reckless in it. I drove that thing like I stole it. I drove that car like it was the end all be all. I was going to race everybody. We almost hit a damn HPD officer one night in that car because of my reckless shit. And Joey would get mad. Boy, he didn't want to ride in that car with me because the way I drove. But I had that car. For me, I was like that kid and Christine. That car was dialed in for me. I had been there since its inception when it became the car it was. It felt like an extension of me. We never got it on a dyno. We never put it on a dyno. But so I don't know how much horsepower it had, but I can tell you this: I smoked the piss out of a '96 C4 ZR1 in it, but that had some extra goodies on it too. I smoked that dude. We lined up at the red light, Highway 6, West Elm, right there by West Oaks Mall. It was a race out there. That I told y'all about that little empty shopping strip. Everybody hung out down there. We'd all been hanging out down there. He come up. He wanted to. I told him I'd run him for $50. I had the cash on me. He showed me his cash, so we run for $50. And everybody was pretty cool down there. If you told somebody you was going to run for money, you come back to the lot and you paid your money. You know, nobody, you didn't have a lot of people try to run. If you did, everybody in that parking lot would chase them. You know, nobody liked that mess. And you'd see, we had to go right by that parking lot so everybody could see who won. And, then we'd circle around at the next light back there at Addicts Clothing. We'd turn around and come back to that parking lot. Well, I got him on the launch. I can tell you that. After first gear, I never saw that Corvette again except in my rearview mirror. He was back there hammering it, giving everything he got. Him and his buddy were in it. It was a green C4, and it was a sounded good as a mean car, but that Mustang, I took his ass, boy. Just walked him like it was my job. We got down the next light. I slowed down, right pipes off, and right when I turned around, he hit the gas and kept going. And there was a little turn through in the median, and I remember I just dropped it in first and slammed the gas and spun that little Mustang around. Well, they'd all seen it from the parking lot, so all the cars started flying out of the parking lot, coming to help me chase this dude down. And he went down. There was a little farther down. There was a stop and go at the back of a neighborhood, and he pulled in short into that stop and go to try to go off in that neighborhood. And I pulled into the neighborhood and come along and pulled up in the back entrance of that stop and go. And everybody had seen where I pulled in, so all the other cars started pulling in the front of the stop and go. So he was trapped in that stop and go parking lot. It didn't get no violence or anything like that. They got out of the car and started. First, he was hollering I cheated and I jumped the gun and all this kind of stuff, but everybody was talking him down, and so then he come off the money and paid me my money. But I smoked the piss out of it. We never saw that damn ZR1 again. He ain't never come down there again. I embarrassed the piss out of that dude. Only two times I lost. Literally the only two times I lost, like a real like getting after real getting after the little grip race was it was a fox. It was a notchback fox body. A guy had a little silver one, and he kicked my ass. And I don't know to this day what all was done to that car, but he kicked my ass. I had to pay that man his money. That dude embarrassed me in that notchback. He had it. That tire barked, and that car was gone. I never caught up to it until it turned slow around and come back to the parking lot. And a dude with a Honda Civic. We were just really, the Japanese cars and everything were just kind of entering our collective conscious down there, and we were learning about them. We didn't know. Nobody had seen a 9-second Honda Civic yet with big fat tires on the front. We didn't know. And this dude was running a sprayed Honda Civic one night, and he took me in that Honda Civic. In fact, we even did a rolling start race, and he took me again. I could not. I refused to lose the odds. It was a point of pride, but he stomped the piss out of me a couple times. That Honda. Boy, I hated giving him money. The old car, but most things. And back then, but HPD had them big body Caprices, and boy, them big body Caprices. Half of them had 305s. You could walk one of them big body Caprices like it wasn't. So back there on Westheimer, there's all these little shoot off roads that went off basically out in the woods. Or what now it's all houses and subdivisions, but it's just out in the woods then. All these little roads. It wasn't nothing, man. Somebody flipped their lights on, I'd take that Mustang and hit it, buddy. Time I was in third gear, them lights was just like a blinking little Christmas light by rear view mirror, and they had radio, so you knew you couldn't run from them very long. So first thing you do is whip off one of them little side roads and run off down there till you find a field or something. You pull a car in, shut the lights off, sit there in the dark and watch HVD Caprice cars, and it's usually constables and sheriffs out there running up and down the road looking for you. You might sit out there 5 or 6 hours. You weren't going to do no more racing that night. And if they saw you again the next day, they might pull you over and give you a little grief, but they got to prove it was you. It's for all the cameras and stuff. And most time we were moving so hot back in, they never even got to see a license plate, babe. There's plenty of them little back roads back there where you can go hide, wait, then creep home, granny shift. Get that car back to the house, call it a night. Maybe didn't go out the next night. Maybe you called it a night for 2 nights. You had them real hot. One of the funniest things I heard, guy I knew had a 55 Chevy. This guy named Rob. He had this badass 55 Chevy. He had 3 or 4 dudes riding with him in that 55 Chevy, and cops tried to pull him over. Boy, he hit it and started going through the neighborhood, through one of them neighborhoods back there. When there's just a few of them, one of those patio home neighborhoods. And every time he'd slow down to take a corner, one of his friends would just jump out the door, roll, hit the ground, and go run off and hide. So by the time the law caught up with Robert, it was just Robert in the car. Them laws was bad as hell because they knew there'd been about 4 people in that car when they tried to pull him over. But he was literally just hitting the brakes, letting people dive out, man. That's a real one right there. Rob was a soldier, man. He's a real one. He's good people, man. Or the biggest batch of tickets I ever got in that car. Really, the only batch of tickets. I got an exhibition acceleration ticket in it once, but the biggest batch of tickets is we was out. We'd taken the ferry and we was over, and I don't even remember who was with me. I think it might have been my buddy Shane. But down there in Bolivar, I was telling y'all about it last week. But down there in Bolivar, you took a ferry from Galveston Island to get over on the Bolivar Peninsula, and then just one main highway run through Bolivar all the way up into Winnie. Texas State 87, I think, is the highway. So 2-lane road, and there was always a state trooper out there in a Mustang waiting. You know, that was a good place. They catch us kids going back and forth to the beach. It was a good place for them to fundraise. And after you've been on that ferry for an hour, you just won't go. You just won't go, man. You get off that ferry, everybody's revving their cars. You just won't go. And got off that ferry, and I happened to be one of the first cars loaded on, so I got to be first car coming off, buddy. Shit. That's great. That's boogity boogity time. That pace car's gone. Let's hit it, baby. Boy, I nailed it. I guess I was running about 70 miles an hour when we saw that state trooper. He was sitting on the side of the road, pointed at us, running the radar. And I thought, F you, brother. Time you get that car turned around, I'm going to be gone. It was 55-mile-an-hour speed limit. He immediately popped them lights right when I went by. And I saw a cloud of dust back there. And I threw that thing in fourth gear and hammered it. Thought I was getting somewhere. Dude, that old boy caught me before I got to Crystal Beach, which it was just a few miles. I mean, we literally, in the course of like 2, 3 miles, he got that Mustang turned around from a dead stop in the dirt. And I mean, I looked in my rear view mirror and that police interceptor Mustang was up my butt. And he was getting ready to move around. I just slowed, pulled over on the side of the road. He railed me up and down. I think I had expired registration, and he wrote me every day. He hung every piece of paper on me he could, boy. I think I walked away about $800 in tickets. Ruined my whole weekend. I had never tried to run enough away from one of them daggum notchbacks ever again. I should have learned my lesson with that first guy I raced. That daggum police intercept, they had them cars dialed in. Oh boy, caught me like I wasn't in nothing, like I was running away in a Volkswagen Beetle. Totaled that car, man. Oh, in the dumbest way too. It was the dumbest way, man. I had my buddy Colin. His dad had gave me a job over at Global Compression, working in quality control. I'd left the lawnmower shop. I'd quit the lawnmower shop and pretty much working, paid my dad back, paid my tickets all off, and I was coming back from a friend's house, and there was a little place over there by my house called Barker's Reservoir, and it's a bunch of little curvy 2-lane roads, and it was like a park, Addicts Reservoir maybe, or Barker's Bend. I can't remember what it's called, but they had a couple of little lakes out there. But they had just a little 2-lane curvy road. And I was coming down. I wasn't even going that fast. I was coming down that little curvy road, and it had rained that morning. And it was kind of slick out. And it rained overnight. I'm telling you, this is the dumbest, most boring wreck you've ever heard in your life. The way I totaled this car is so stupid. And it was coming through one of them curves, and I just kind of goosed it. I just like the sound it made when you goosed it. And I was in third gear, and I goosed it, and them back tires just got loose. And I just 180'd right off that little 2-lane road. And I swear to everything holy, when I hit that wet grass and caliche clay, a car sped up and just kept sliding off that road. And I lost all control of it, and it smacked in. They had these, they would take old telephone poles and stick them in the ground. They were trying to, what was it they were trying to save? The wood ducks. They were trying to save the wood ducks, and they were making these little houses for these wood ducks on these little telephone poles. They had them out there in Barker's Reservoir. And I hit that wet grass and caliche and smacked into one of them wood duck posts, hit right behind the passenger. Didn't hurt me at all. It, you know, I was a little shook up and muscles were sore. I had a seatbelt on and everything. But it hit right behind that passenger door and just crinkled that old unibody up in. It was done. Yeah, those cars, they didn't have much to them. It was done. You're gonna need a frame machine and a young priest, an old priest, get that car straight again. It was done. And we got it towed back to the house. I was trying to console myself that it's, and me and my dad weren't really, you know, he just didn't want a lot to do with me at that time because I'd hurt him pretty bad, done a bad thing. And I was trying to keep solace. I was like, well, I can take that engine out. I can just find me another car, put that engine, that transmission in. Maybe I even was thinking about maybe find me a little Ford Ranger, put that engine, that transmission in. Got that car back to the house. I had the hood popped on it. Dad was like, well, what'd you do? I slipped out of the curb. Yeah, out there driving like an idiot. I'm not surprised. And I kept trying to start that car, and it sounded like the engine was turning over when I tried to start it. But like it was turning over really fast, like something wasn't right. You know, what is it? But making some sounds. My dad was out there doing something one of his cars, and turned around. He looked off in the hood when I was doing it. He goes, "You might as well give that up." He said, "You got a broke crank." I said, "No, Dad." I said, "Didn't even hit the engine. How to break the crank?" He said, "I don't know, but you got a broke crank. Figure it out." Boy, I was mad. I went off in there and got a big old wrench, put me a socket on that harmonic bouncer. You could have turned it with your hand. The crank was broke. Broke my heart. I stripped the heads, the intake, carburetor, the headers off of it. Had it towed off to a junkyard. I carried them parts around. I had them parts in 3 different storage bins. I dragged them parts around with me everywhere I went. I always had hopes of putting another car like that together again. And I know who I sold. I sold them cars to the guy that built that first AOD transmission, that Ford Arrow nose pickup I had. The guy told me he put the Cobra transmission parts in there. It was full of crap. I sold them parts off to him. Oh boy, it worked over there by Tommy Bond Ford. Well, let's wrap it up right there, man. Let's do some testimonials. Testimonials, if you will. Testimonials. Yeah. And I am prepared today. Let's go. Who we got here? There's comments from last week's show about the what was I talking about? That Hummer, that old H2. At Jake of all trades, master of fun. I left the trades to go in house and steel mill for job security. Though one day the mill can close. Yeah, it can. Boy, yeah. Hell, half my mill is formerly Inland, the other is formerly LTV. I guess those are 2 different companies. I don't know who they are. Good old Northwest Indiana. Yeah, buddy, mill's closed, man. Ask anybody in Pennsylvania. Uh, Also, where's Wendell Wiggins? Wendell's taking a break right now. I got to make some changes before Wendell can come back. But I decided Wendell's going to have his own home, separate from the wrecking yard. Wendell's gonna be his own thing. I just didn't feel like he was a good fit for this show, and I wanted to get this show back to its basics of what felt. I had all these dreams. I re-envisioned the second format of the show for the second season. I was not the characters and all the stuff, and I had to do it just to see if it felt right. But it just honestly, none of it felt right, and it just felt like a bunch of like I was being extra for no reason. And I wanted to get back to what I really enjoyed about this show, which was talking about cars and telling stories. And so I've stripped this show back to what I really enjoyed the most about it, and it's a lot less stressful. Wendell ain't gone. Wendell Wiggins is going to have his day in the sun, but it's not going to be here on the wrecking yard. But keep eye on my other content. You're going to see Wendell come back soon. At Samuel Baum 2255. As a young man, it's occurring to me I might not be able to drive the things I can now, so I'm trying to make the most of them. Just today, I got my B4000 set up for a winch, and I'm hoping to go out, explore, and make some memories. Love your content. Look forward to it every Sunday. You know what, Samuel? You've got, as a young man, you got a lot more figured out than I did as a young man. I'll tell you that right here in front of everybody. I wish, when I don't know how old you are, but I wish I had figured it out younger and just enjoyed the things I had instead of always wanting something else. I wish there's plenty of little pickups I had. I wish I'd just put a winch on, went out and made some memories in. So I think what you're doing is spot on, brother. Enjoy the shit out of that Mazda. Go out there, have yourself a good time. Go do some fishing. Get a little too drunk. Sleep in the truck. Have a good time. Not too drunk behind the wheel. Just to clarify. At Taillight Tim 26. Mold. All you need. Oh, we were talking about mold and mildew. Mold. All you need is a tank sprayer, bleach, and water. It kills just about anything, and even you if you don't have any ventilation. Yeah, that's a. I wouldn't recommend climbing around an attic with a tank sprayer full of bleach. I would not. Uh, but what is easy to find these days, you can go out and buy enzymes that'll kill the piss out of mold and mildew. Really, you can go. One of mine favorite ones is Controbium, something like that. Look it up. Concrobium. Concrobium is a good one. Leaves a little shell, kills future mildew and mold growth, and yeah, you can get it just about anywhere. But it's a natural enzyme. You don't have to worry about being toxic to animals or toxic to you. Uh, not saying bleach doesn't work. I'm just saying bleach does come with a host of its own other problems. And yeah, I don't want to see any of you get the toxic bleachicity or whatever the hell happens on my account. So I would not suggest that. Might have worked out well for Tim, and I've used bleach in the past, kill some mold. I get what you're about, brother. But yeah, boy, if you're going to do that, damn sure make sure you got you some ventilation, bro, because well, I can get out of hand quick. That's our testimonials. Sorry, I keep looking at my watch, but I'm getting to the edge of. I think I can wrap this up before I run out of audio here. Glory days, baby. Glory days look great through rose-colored glasses, but those were not peak personal growth years for me. Personal life was a mess. Dating was a joke. I wasn't getting anywhere with that. I nearly ruined my relationship with my father first time. Back then, boy, I could find a reason to quit any job before lunch. Just yeah, an obsession like that is not healthy. Even Joey and I's friendship was strained But when I think about the way I love that Mustang, all I remember is the torque and smelling like exhaust everywhere I went. I cannot remember the name of a single girl I dated back then, but there was a handful of them. I can't remember them girls saved my life, and that's not a thing about them. It's just my mind was on that car. You know, Christine is a cautionary tale. Yeah, the car don't have to be haunted before you get obsessed with it and make bad decisions. I can't even remember all the jobs I had, but I remember every detail of that car. I remember going through half a can of tire wet every Saturday night to go show it off. I remember spending more of my days in auto parts places than I was anywhere else. I can remember every detail of that car. I can remember the way the interior looked. I can remember the way it smelled. I can remember the way it felt through every gear. I remember just about every time I ever run it against somebody. I think most things look better than they were in the rear view mirror. You know, it's a smaller view. You can't see all the stuff you see looking out the front. I think that's just a facet of the human condition. That's why it's hard work. It's hard work to stay in the present. Looking back and what ifs will drive you crazy. We all miss our glory years, various times that felt like glory years. You know, if we don't look too closely at them. But I bet if we really sat down and had a think on it, we could remember everything that was wrong back in too, with everything. You know, you hear these guys all the time. Truck driver. Well, I miss back when truck drivers was real truck driver. Yeah, people died all the time. You know, a lot less. Everybody longs for the way things used to be, but I think if you really sit down and look at it under a microscope, you realize there's a lot more problems than we want to admit to back then. That's why you got to stay. I'm rooting for you. Enjoy the present, even if your present feels bad right now. Be in it. Who knows? You one day you may think right now was your glory years. One day you may be looking back on that like this is the good time. That was the good times. I didn't even realize I was having the good times. You know, you may have several sets of glory years. I've been lucky. I've been lucky to have several good timing runs in my life. But I think maybe when I get older, these are the years I'll look back and these are the years that my creative output is at its highest. That you know, got a great wife, good kids. These are the years I think I'll look back and fondly on. And I think unless you're just in a horrible situation right now, maybe you too. I'm rooting for you regardless where you at. I'm rooting for you. Just remember what my Uncle Bobby always told me. It's okay to have a good time, but every time don't have to be a good time. He used to tell me that all the time. It's okay, nephew, have a good time. Every time don't got to be a good time. He couldn't practice it, but he preached it good, and he showed me the way by failing at it every chance he got. Hey guys, enjoy the rest of your Easter. I'm JW, and I love you. I'm going straight to hell, just like my mama said. I'm going straight to hell.